He was photographing my house number for delivery confirmation, which is standard procedure, Maya countered. Something you would know if you had ever ordered groceries instead of having your housekeeper do it. Patricia's eyes narrowed at the accurate barb. I've already called the police. They'll sort this out. From down the street came the sound of approaching sirens. Several neighbors had emerged from their homes, awkwardly pretending to check their mailboxes or water their lawns while watching the drama unfold. Jamal, please bring those groceries inside, Maya said firmly, holding the door open. You've done nothing wrong. Ma'am, if the police are coming. Jamal hesitated, his expression tight with an anxiety Maya recognized all too well from patients who'd had negative experiences with law enforcement. I'm right here, Maya assured him. And I have hospital security camera footage of me performing surgery when 3 break-ins occurred in this neighborhood last month. So Mrs. Wilkinson can't possibly think I'm in a burglary ring with my Instacart driver. Jamal managed a small smile as he carefully stepped past Patricia, who recoiled as if he were contagious. From her peripheral vision, Maya could see Mrs. Keller across the street recording the entire encounter on her phone. Good. Documentation always helped in situations like this. This is a violation of our security procedures, Patricia declared, her voice rising. The board will hear about this. Perfect, Maya replied as the police cruisers turned onto her street. And I'm sure they'll be very interested in hearing why you falsely reported an armed suspicious person when it's clearly a grocery delivery, she added in her most professional voice. Making false reports to police is a criminal offense, Patricia. I hope you understand the seriousness of what you've just done. For the first time since Maya had met her, Patricia Wilkinson looked uncertain. The sirens grew louder as the cruisers pulled into Maya's driveway, lights flashing against the pristine facades of Oakwood Estates. He's doing great, Doctor. Says you're the reason he can still play guitar. Officer Ramirez turned to Jamal. Sir, I apologize for the inconvenience. You're free to go about your business. The male officer, whose nameplate read St. Williams, frowned at Patricia. Ma'am, calling emergency services for a verified delivery person doing their legitimate job could be considered misuse of police resources. Patricia's face tightened. I was simply following neighborhood security protocols that I myself implemented. How was I to know who he really was? By asking. Maya suggested, unable to keep the sarcasm from her voice, or by noticing the Instacart shirt, the grocery bags, and the fact that he was at my door. Officer Ramirez's eyes lit up suddenly. Wait, Dr. Chen, weren't you on Channel 7 last night? You were the lead surgeon who saved those kids from the basketball team bus crash. A ripple went through the growing crowd of neighbors. The crash had been all over local news. 5 critically injured teenagers, all now expected to survive against overwhelming odds. That was you? Asked an elderly man who had been watering his lawn across the street. My grandson was on that bus. Not one of the injured ones, thank God. But he hasn't stopped talking about the miracle doctor who saved his friends. Another neighbor stepped forward, a woman in scrubs who Maya recognized as a nurse from a different hospital. Dr. Chen is legendary in the medical community. She pioneered a trauma protocol that's been adopted by hospitals across the state. Patricia's face had drained of color, her earlier confidence evaporating as she realized her critical miscalculation. She'd spent years cultivating her image as Oakwood Estates' self-appointed guardian, but now she'd been caught on video. Several neighbors were recording, racially profiling the delivery person of the neighborhood's resident hero surgeon. I didn't realize. Patricia stammered. That's the problem, isn't it? Maya said quietly. You didn't realize who I was, so you felt entitled to treat my delivery person like a criminal. Would it have made a difference if you'd known I was a surgeon? Should it? The gathered crowd murmured in agreement. Patricia's gaze darted around, finding no allies, only judgment in the eyes of her neighbors. A sleek black SUV pulled up to the curb, and a distinguished-looking man in his 50s emerged, his face creased with concern. Maya? He called out, making his way through the crowd. What's going on? I was on my way to that budget meeting when I got calls about police at your house. Maya recognized Dr. James Harrison, the chief of surgery at County General. She'd forgotten they had scheduled a brief meeting today to discuss her research funding. James, she greeted him with surprise. It's nothing serious. Just a misunderstanding about my grocery delivery. Dr. Harrison surveyed the scene. The police cars, the neighbors with phones recording, Patricia standing stiffly nearby, and Jamal still holding grocery bags. A misunderstanding that required 2 police units. His tone was skeptical as he extended his hand to Sergeant Williams. Dr. James Harrison, Chief of Surgery at County General. I hope my colleague hasn't caused any trouble. Quite the opposite, sir, Officer Ramirez interjected. Dr. Chen was simply receiving a grocery delivery when Mrs. Wilkinson here reported suspicious activity. Dr. Harrison's eyebrows rose. Suspicious grocery delivery? The absurdity of the situation, stated so plainly, caused several neighbors to chuckle. Dr. Chen saved 5 teenagers last night, piped up the elderly neighbor. Worked 18 hours straight from what I've heard. Dr. Harrison nodded, and she was scheduled to present her groundbreaking trauma protocol at the Governor's Healthcare Innovation Summit next week. The protocol that reduced mortality rates in our ER by 23% last year. This new information rippled through the crowd, and Maya noticed several neighbors shooting accusatory glances at Patricia, whose complexion had gone from pale to ashen. Mrs. Wilkinson was just concerned about neighborhood safety, Maya said diplomatically, suddenly aware that Patricia's humiliation was becoming a spectacle. Despite her anger, Maya's innate compassion, as a physician, made her uncomfortable with public shaming. A reasonable concern, Dr. Harrison agreed smoothly, though perhaps more discernment could have been applied in this case. He turned to Patricia. I understand you're the HOA president? Perhaps we should discuss how delivery protocols could be improved to avoid these incidents. County General has some excellent security consultants who might offer suggestions. It was a graceful olive branch and a subtle reminder that Maya had powerful connections beyond the confines of Oakwood Estates. Patricia, recognizing both the escape route and the implicit warning, gave a tight nod. That would be constructive. Excellent, Dr. Harrison replied, before turning back to Maya. Now, I believe you need to eat something and rest. You have that cardiothoracic technique demonstration for the residents tomorrow. As the crowd began to disperse and the officers prepared to leave, Maya felt a strange mixture of vindication and weariness. She had never wanted to be the neighborhood drama, but perhaps this confrontation had been inevitable given Patricia's reign of HOA terror. Patricia, Walter called out, his voice carrying the authority of his former profession. Isn't this the 3rd time this month you've called the police about delivery personnel? Patricia's face flushed. The safety of our community. Last week it was the UPS driver, continued Walter, approaching the group. Before that, it was the DoorDash driver bringing my Thai food. Both times, they were just doing their jobs. Officer Ramirez handed Jamal's ID back to him with a smile. Everything checks out, sir. I apologize for the inconvenience. What about the photography? Patricia insisted, though her voice had lost its earlier conviction. He was taking pictures of Dr. Chen's home. It's standard procedure, Jamal explained, showing his phone screen. The app requires delivery confirmation photos. It's all geo-stamped and logged in the system. Maya, who had been watching the situation unfold with growing relief, suddenly felt lightheaded. The adrenaline that had sustained her through confronting Patricia was wearing off, and the cumulative exhaustion of her marathon surgery session and interrupted sleep hit her all at once. She swayed slightly, grabbing the porch railing for support. Officer Ramirez noticed immediately. Dr. Chen, are you all right? Just tired, Maya admitted. Haven't eaten since yesterday, I think. You should get inside and have some of these groceries, Officer Ramirez said firmly, gesturing to Jamal to bring the remaining bags to the door. Sergeant, I believe we're done here, aren't we? Sergeant Williams closed his notepad with a decisive snap. We certainly are. Mrs. Wilkinson, a word? As the sergeant led Patricia a few steps away for what appeared to be a stern conversation, Officer Ramirez turned to Maya with concern in her eyes. You saved my brother's career, Dr. Chen. He would never play guitar again if not for you. Is there anything I can do to help with this situation? She gestured discreetly toward Patricia. 3 days later, a luxury gift basket arrived on Maya's doorstep with a handwritten note. My sincerest apologies for the unfortunate misunderstanding. Patricia Wilkinson, HOA president. Maya donated it to the hospital break room and thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. The video of Patricia calling the police on Jamal had gone viral locally, with the headline HOA Karen calls cops on delivery man bringing groceries to hero surgeon. Local news picked it up, interviewing several Oakwood Estates residents about Patricia's reign of terror over unapproved mailbox colors and garage door violations. When the monthly HOA meeting rolled around, Maya almost skipped it. She'd been awake for 22 hours after an emergency splenectomy, but something pulled her to the community center that evening. She slipped into the back row just as the meeting was called to order. The room was packed. Residents who hadn't attended a meeting in years had shown up, many nodding respectfully at Maya. Patricia sat rigidly at the head table, her usual supporters conspicuously absent from their front row seats. "Before we begin," announced the vice president, a retired judge named Walter, "we have several motions on the floor regarding amendments to our community guidelines." What followed was nothing short of a revolution. Residents lined up to share stories of Patricia's excessive enforcement. Violation notices for Christmas lights left up 1 day too long, fines for unauthorized wind chimes, a cease and desist letter sent to a 10-year-old's lemonade stand. When the discussion turned to security protocols, Walter called on Maya. She hadn't planned to speak, but found herself walking to the microphone. "In emergency medicine, we use a concept called triage," she began, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "We distinguish between actual emergencies and non-emergencies because resources are limited and overreaction can cause harm. Perhaps our community could benefit from a similar approach." The room erupted in applause. By meeting's end, the board had voted to create a new security protocol that distinguished between actual threats and routine deliveries, establish an online system for pre-approving service providers, and, in a stunning development, hold a special election for HOA president the following month. 6 weeks later, Maya's doorbell rang. She opened it to find Jamal with her groceries, grinning broadly. "You won't believe this, Dr. Chen." The guard at the gate high-fived me. "Said I'm on some VIP list now." Maya laughed. "The new board president is implementing changes faster than I expected. Is it true what they're saying, that you're the new president?" Jamal asked, handing over her bags. "God, no." Maya replied with a shudder. "I nominated Walter. I save lives. I don't have time to save neighborhoods too." Later that evening, as Maya planted wildflowers in her front yard, explicitly permitted under the new environmentally friendly landscaping amendment, she spotted Patricia Power walking on the opposite sidewalk. The former HOA president had been notably quiet since losing the special election by a historic margin. Patricia hesitated, then crossed the street. "Those will attract butterflies," she said stiffly, gesturing at the wildflowers. "I planted some last year, but they weren't allowed then." Maya studied the woman who had made her first month in Oakwood Estates miserable. "Would you like some seedlings? I bought too many." Patricia looked startled, then gave a small nod. "I'd like that." As they knelt in the dirt together, Maya reflected on what she told her trauma residents. Sometimes the most stubborn cases simply needed the right intervention at the right time. Patricia Wilkinson, stripped of her power and forced to face the consequences of her actions, was finally learning that the world didn't end when rules were bent. Security protocols were reasonable, and neighbors actually became neighborly. And it had only taken a viral video, public humiliation, and an emergency HOA election to get there. Maya smiled to herself. Some patients were just more difficult than others. The story might have ended there, with an uneasy peace between the two women, if not for the series of small but significant changes that followed over the next few months. First came the community newsletter, featuring a front-page article about Maya's trauma protocol being adopted statewide, written by none other than Patricia herself. The accompanying photo showed Maya demonstrating a life-saving technique to local high school students during a career day event. Then there was the day Maya returned home from a particularly grueling shift to find her lawn mowed, her garbage bins returned from the curb, and fresh groceries in her refrigerator. The note on her counter simply read, "Neighbors help neighbors." Most surprising was the evening Patricia knocked on her door, holding a folder of papers. The HOA is establishing a fund for medical professionals who work irregular hours, she explained, her voice lacking its former imperious tone. Services like lawn care, snow removal, and grocery delivery. I thought you might have suggestions. Maya invited her in, and over tea discovered that Patricia had once been an emergency dispatcher until a call involving a child had gone tragically wrong. She'd moved to Oakwood Estates seeking control and predictability, becoming increasingly rigid as the years passed. Rules don't save people, Patricia admitted quietly. People save people. I forgot that somewhere along the way. When the local newspaper ran a follow-up story 6 months after the Instacart incident, the headline read, "From HOA battleground to model community. How a delivery dispute transformed Oakwood Estates." The photo showed Maya and Patricia standing together at the entrance to the neighborhood, unveiling a new sign that read, "Welcome to Oakwood Estates, where neighborly kindness comes first." Below it, in smaller letters, "Delivery drivers, first responders, and essential workers always welcome." Jamal, now attending nursing school part-time, inspired by Maya's example and supported by a scholarship established by the Oakwood Estates Community Foundation, chaired by Patricia, smiled every time he made deliveries there. Some neighborhoods, like some patients, could heal after all. Dr. Maya Chen collapsed onto her couch, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes marked fragile and KTHN. Her surgical scrubs still reeked of hospital antiseptic, and dark circles shadowed her eyes after a 16-hour shift that had ended with her saving a 9-year-old boy who'd been impaled in a freak skateboarding accident. After 7 years of renting a cramped apartment 3 minutes from County General Hospital, she'd finally purchased her dream home in Oakwood Estates, a neighborhood that screamed, "You've made it," with its gleaming white colonials and perfectly sculpted hedges. "Welcome to suburban paradise," Maya muttered to herself, scrolling through her Instacart app. With back-to-back surgeries scheduled tomorrow, grocery shopping wasn't happening unless someone brought it to her doorstep. Her phone chimed with a text from her new neighbor, Elise. "GNT. Your garage door was open for 37 minutes this afternoon. Patricia is already drafting a violation notice." Maya frowned. Her realtor had warned her about Patricia Wilkinson, the Oakwood Estates HOA president, describing her as a retired corporate executive with nothing better to do than measure your grass with a ruler. Maya had laughed it off then. She managed life or death situations daily. How intimidating could one neighborhood busybody be? The answer arrived the very next morning. A hot pink notice slipped under her door citing 3 violations: the garage door incident, an unapproved welcome mat, solid colors only, and the cardinal sin of placing her recycling bin on the curb at 6:58 a.m., when regulations clearly stated 7:00 a.m. At the bottom, in precise handwriting, "New residents often struggle with our standards. Perhaps Oakwood Estates isn't for everyone. Patricia Wilkinson, HOA president since 2011. Maya crumpled the notice and tossed it toward her kitchen trash. It missed, naturally, just like her attempt to find a normal, peaceful place to live apparently had. The doorbell rang just as Maya was heading out for her shift. She opened it to find a woman in her 60s with immaculate silver blonde hair and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Dr. Chen, I presume?" "Patricia Wilkinson, HOA president." She extended a manicured hand. "I thought I'd deliver your second notice personally." Maya blinked. "Second notice? It's been less than 24 hours since the first one." "Yes, well, violation notices should be acknowledged within 12 hours. It's in the bylaws." Patricia's gaze drifted past Maya into the foyer, where moving boxes were still stacked. "And I see you haven't removed the previous owner's brass doorknobs. Section 17.3 clearly states all exterior hardware Must be brushed nickel or oil-rubbed bronze. Maya checked her watch. I'm due in surgery in 30 minutes. Lives literally depend on me being there. And property values depend on adherence to our standards. Patricia counted smoothly. I've taken the liberty of scheduling you for a new resident orientation. Saturday, 8 a.m. sharp. I work weekends. The following Saturday then. I work most Saturdays. Patricia's smile tightened. Being a doctor sounds very demanding. Perhaps a neighborhood with fewer standards would better accommodate your lifestyle. The condescension in her tone made Maya's blood pressure spike. As a female surgeon of Asian descent, she'd dealt with enough patronizing attitudes to last a lifetime. Mrs. Wilkinson, I save lives for a living. What exactly do you do besides measure welcome mats and spy on garage doors? Patricia's eyes widened. I maintain the standards that make Oakwood Estates the most desirable address in this county. Standards that were in place long before you arrived and will remain long after you're gone. Was that a threat? Maya didn't have time to analyze it. I have to go. A teenager with a brain bleed is waiting for me. And these violation forms are waiting for your signature, Patricia replied, thrusting a clipboard toward her, plus the $175 in fines. Maya stared at her in disbelief. I've been here for 4 days. 5 actually. Which reminds me, you've violated noise ordinances twice with your comings and goings after midnight. Those were emergency calls. I'm a surgeon. The HOA doesn't recognize professional emergencies as exemptions. Patricia's smile returned, cold and satisfied. Perhaps you should read the complete covenant. It's only 342 pages. Maya's pager beeped urgently. Without another word, she closed the door and headed for her car. Patricia Wilkinson and her precious rules would have to wait. She had actual life and death matters to attend to, though at this rate, moving into Oakwood Estates might prove to be the death of her patients. 3 weeks later, Maya stumbled through her front door at 2:17 a.m., her scrubs splattered with blood that wasn't hers. A bus carrying a high school basketball team had collided with a semi-truck, and she'd spent 18 grueling hours in surgery. Her refrigerator contained exactly half a lime, an expired yogurt, and a suspicious-looking takeout container. She immediately opened her Instacart app and placed a massive order, scheduling it for the following afternoon, her first day off in 12 days. The next day, after sleeping until noon, Maya's phone buzzed with a notification from her Instacart driver. Hi Dr. Chen, this is Jamal with your groceries. The guard at the gate won't let me in. Says I need resident approval even though I have your address. Maya, still groggy, called the gatehouse. This is Dr. Chen at 1478 Wellington Drive. My grocery delivery is there. Please let him in. Sorry ma'am, the guard replied nervously. Mrs. Wilkinson implemented a new policy yesterday. All delivery services need pre-registered approval through the HOA office. Maya glanced at her empty fridge. It's Saturday. The HOA office is closed. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. 20 minutes and several strongly worded texts to the community manager later, Maya had secured temporary approval for Jamal to enter, only to receive another message from him. Someone's following me. I'm at your house, but there's a lady taking pics of my car and on the phone with police. Maya raced to her front door and flung it open. There stood Jamal, a young black man in his early 20s with a nervous expression and 6 heavy grocery bags. And behind him, Patricia Wilkinson herself, designer sunglasses pushed up into her immaculate blunt bob, designer handbag, clutched in one manicured hand, while the other held her phone to her ear. I don't care what he claims to be delivering, Patricia was saying loudly into her phone, her voice dripping with exaggerated fear. He was taking photographs of homes and behaving suspiciously. This is a gated community for a reason. I need officers here immediately. Jamal's eyes met Maya's, silently pleading for help as the groceries she desperately needed hung heavy in his hands. Ma'am, I have ID and the Instacart app shows I'm here for a delivery, Jamal said, his voice controlled but strained. I was just taking the confirmation photo that the app requires. Patricia ignored him completely, stepping back dramatically as if he were brandishing a weapon instead of a paper bag containing Maya's organic spinach and almond milk. "See the suspicious individual," Patricia enunciated into her phone, loud enough for the entire block to hear. "Possibly armed." Maya felt a surge of fury unlike anything she'd experienced since a hospital administrator had questioned her judgment during a critical trauma case. She stepped forward, positioning herself between Jamal and Patricia. "He is carrying grocery bags, not weapons," Maya said icily. "And you're harassing my delivery person who has been approved by the gate." Patricia lowered her phone slightly. "Dr. Chen, you don't understand the security protocols that keep this neighborhood safe. This individual was photographing homes. What exactly is going on here?" Maya demanded, stepping onto her porch. The lack of sleep and nourishment had worn her patience paper-thin. Jamal's shoulders sagged with relief. "I was just trying to deliver your groceries, Dr. Chen. I took the standard delivery confirmation photo of your house number, and then this lady started following me in her golf cart, taking pictures of me and my car." Patricia's perfectly lined lips thinned. "Young lady," she began, despite Maya being clearly in her 30s, "we have protocols in this community. Unidentified individuals cannot simply roam our streets taking photographs of residents' homes." "He's not roaming," Maya countered, taking the grocery bags from Jamal's hands. "He's bringing me food that I ordered because I just finished an 18-hour trauma surgery and haven't had time to shop." Patricia's nostrils flared. "I've already called the police. As HOA president, I have a duty too." The distinct sound of sirens cut through the air, and Maya watched in disbelief as 2 police cruisers screeched into her driveway, lights flashing. Several neighbors emerged from their homes, smartphones ready to capture whatever drama was unfolding. "This is ridiculous," Maya muttered, stepping protectively in front of Jamal. Addressing Patricia, she raised her voice. "You called armed officers because someone was delivering groceries." The officers approached, one older white man with a military-style haircut and a younger Latina woman whose hand rested cautiously on her holster. "What seems to be the problem here?" the male officer asked, eyes scanning the scene. Patricia stepped forward eagerly. "Officer, I witnessed this individual trespassing and conducting surveillance of homes in our community. When confronted, he's my Instacart driver," Maya interrupted, her emergency room voice cutting through Patricia's performance. "I ordered groceries. He was taking the standard delivery photo required by the app. Mrs. Wilkinson here followed him to my home and called you unnecessarily." The female officer studied Maya carefully. "Ma'am, could I see some ID, please?" Maya handed over her driver's license along with her hospital ID badge. The officer's eyes widened. "Wait, Dr. Chen? From County General Trauma?" Recognition dawned in her eyes. "You treated my brother Miguel after his construction accident last month. The one where the rebar—" She made a stabbing motion through her own palm. Maya nodded tiredly. "Yes, Officer Ramirez, I remember. How's his mobility coming along in physical therapy?" Officer Ramirez's demeanor softened immediately. "He's playing guitar again because of you, Dr. Chen." She turned to Jamal. "Sir, may I see your ID and the delivery information on your app?" Jamal carefully reached for his wallet, his movements deliberately slow and non-threatening. "Yes, ma'am. I have everything right here." As Jamal showed his identification and the Instacart order details, Sergeant Williams turned his attention to Patricia, who was still clutching her phone and looking increasingly uncomfortable as the situation shifted away from her control. "Ma'am, did you report that this man was armed?" he asked, his tone decidedly cooler. Patricia adjusted her designer sunglasses. "I said he was possibly armed. I couldn't see his hands clearly with all those grocery bags." "Those grocery bags that were ordered by and being delivered to Dr. Chen," Sergeant Williams clarified, jotting something in his notepad. More neighbors had gathered now, forming a loose semicircle around the scene. Maya recognized her next-door neighbor, a retired judge named Walter, watching with narrowed eyes.